So, you want to play Reptile? I got you. Reptile I describe as kind of a pressure character and also a little bit of a hit and run style. That's the way I play him anyway. The reason I say that is because not only does he has pretty great buttons up close that kind of can keep him here and keep him in a safe position, but he also has a lot of moves that move him across the screen really quickly and hit you by surprise. So we'll go over some of his special moves first. So his first special move is going to be his Acid Spit. It is a high attack, and if you meter burn it, it becomes a mid and has a little bit more range and more damage, and it knocks their opponent further back. You're going to notice that some of his moves do knock him, or knock the opponent quite a bit of distance away, and that's why I kind of talk about the hit and run kind of mechanic that he has, because he kind of wants to keep a distance around here, where I could pounce on you if I want to, or I can just kind of check you with my big stuff. His next special move, you got his dash attack. So this is it's a mid, right? And he goes over to the other side and he hits the opponent with an overhead. If the attack is blocked, obviously you stay on this side. However, if you meter burn it, not only does it do more damage, but he crosses over to the other side, he gives an overhead, he pushes them back, and you're -5. So pretty good move to use. It does not have armor, so you have to be careful with that. But it's great as a grounded combo ender. Make sure that they are on the ground, because if they're in the air, this doesn't work. It's a pretty good positioning tool, so I could do something like this and cross over to the other side as he falls down. So it gives him things to worry about. And maybe I call a cameo on this side, and then I do the transition. And it's just pretty strong overall. You just need to know how to use it. And if you are going to surprise the opponent, not everybody blocks that second attack. Sometimes they're going to get knocked down, and then you can kind of do whatever you want. His next special move is probably his most important, one of his most important ones. It's going to be his Force Ball. So Force Ball has a couple of different versions. It's got its regular version, which goes around half screen. It goes round start distance. He's got the close one, which is like barely any distance. And then he's got the fast one, which travels a lot further. But none of them hit full screen. The only way to get it full screen is if you meter burn it. So if you do the close Force Ball and you meter burn it, it's very slow. You can walk behind it, and it goes full screen. So it's still a pretty effective tool. Basically, all of them, no matter which one you do, this is the regular speed version, and then you got the fast one, which goes a little bit faster than that. All of them are going to pop the opponent up, and this is important because now you can combo off of that and kind of do what you want to do. So this is his biggest combo tool. Just getting the Force Balls out, and then you can kind of combo into whatever. So if you want to pressure the opponent, what I would recommend is doing a Force Ball and then walking behind it. And then you can kind of do your thing. They're kind of forced to block, and you can do either an overhead or a low. So Reptile's pretty good at that. Then my favorite move of his is going to be his death roll. So his death roll is his slide. He does a gator roll, and it's a combo ender. It works great with a lot of stuff, so I could just 1-1 into this. It's just a great way to finish things. Some strings, he's the only thing you could combo from, so I would use it a lot. And if you meter burn it, it's armored, so that's the cool part. You can use this as a wake up, and your opponent's not going to see it coming. Be careful, because if they block it, obviously you're minus 30, so you're going to get punished. Then he's got the invisibility. This is his other special move. So it does take a little bit for it to activate, but once it does, he can turn completely invisible. And if you meter burn it, he stays invisible for longer. So I'm just gonna like run around, and he stays invisible for longer. So it's important to note that if he gets hit or if he blocks an attack, he does get out of it. But other than that, I use this sparingly. It's not very common that I use this because it takes a little bit for the invisibility to come out. It's not like Smoke's, where Smoke, if he throws it, is his air kunai, and then he turns invisible, it's instant. This, it takes a little bit of time, so you're probably going to want to cover this with, I don't know, maybe an assist or something like that. But if your opponent has a projectile, it's kind of rough, you know? You kind of have to go in with a gator roll, things like that. And his final special move, I've only really found it as like a combo ender tool. It's his air fangs, or falling fangs. It's an overhead, so it's a good, like, it works great with your jump-ins. It works great to finish your air combos. you know. And then if you meter burn it, it just does more damage. Obviously, it can be blocked, and you're minus 29, so be careful with it. So let's get into his anti-airs. The first anti-air would be actually his stand 1. His stand 1 is very good at checking people in the air, and it works, it almost always works with his 1-1. So you can get that into a combo with the Gator Roll, and you basically confirmed a little bit of damage there. Really fast, so I would recommend using it. If not, you can use it down 2. Down 2 is 9 frames. And it hits quite a big distance. It says 9 frames, but I think because of the angle in which it hits, right? So you see the arc is kind of like where the railing is. It takes a little bit to come out, if that makes sense. Like for it to hit the top portion where you want to, it takes a little longer than someone like Scorpion, which has a shorter arm. So the trajectory of his arm getting to the top is like, you know, it's faster. So this takes a little bit of time. I'm not gonna lie, I do get hit out of it a couple of times. Like more than a few times I've been hit out of the uppercut. So use it, but you have to be a little bit preemptive with it, even though it is 9 frames. Then you got Standing 4. Standing 4 basically allows you to combo into stuff. So if you land, let's say I land something, I can special cancel out of it. So then as far as his pokes go, his stand 1 is pretty good. It's his fastest button, 7 frames. It's a puncher's jab. It is a little stubby, I'm not gonna lie, but it does the job well. You know, you gotta have your fastest button on your poke list. Then you got stand 3. So stand 3 is a high and then a mid, but it covers a lot of room. He uses his tail to basically, you know, knock the opponent back if it connects. And even if it doesn't, you're minus 7. So you're basically safe, you know, because of the distance that it gives. As of right now, I don't know of a Pokemon game that can punish this. Obviously, you could duck the first hit, but other than that, you should be fine. And you got forward 3. Forward 3 is a high. It's an advancing high. So covers quite a bit of distance. The cool thing about it is that you can go into his strings. So great for just checking the opponent if they're doing some dumb stuff. And then finally, I have back 4. Back 4 is an incredible sweep. It is 11 frames, right? So some characters have 10, 9 frame sweeps. His is 11, but I think it's so worth it. He basically bails. Wherever he is on the screen, he moves back. So it's a very non-committal thing. Right? He's minus 7, sure, but look at how far back he goes. He creates this big gap where I can hit you with something like this, or, you know, maybe even slide back again. So very great poke, and it's very hard for your opponent to punish this, right? It's very difficult. So I would be throwing this out all the time. His strong buttons are going to be forward 2. Forward 2 is an advancing mid. Again, not a lot of range, as we saw with some other characters, but it goes into a couple of strings that are important for combos, and just doing it by itself, it's minus 4. So you're safe completely for just throwing this out. And you have back 2. This is important. Back 2 isn't overhead. It's the only overhead in his kit. And it's got a couple different versions, depending on how long you hold it. If you just tap it, 19 frames, and it just knocks him down on the floor. If you hold it a little bit more, you know, he gets a sliding knockdown and he moves back a little bit. But if you really hold it down and he completely turns into a lizard, you get a pop-up. So, like this, and then you can follow up with some stuff. I missed that, but, you know, you can follow up with some stuff, and it's pretty cool. And then back 3 is basically what you're going to be seeing players online use, because also this is very difficult to punish. It is minus 6, so it's safe. I could just throw it out if I want to. And I could follow it up with the mid. That's what makes this string or this button so powerful, that I can just kind of like wait to see if you got hit. If you didn't get hit, then, well, I don't care. I'm just going to stay right in your face. And I'll be perfectly fine. So his important strings are going to be his 1-1, right? This I use for both pressure and also if he's in a combo, 1-1, I could do this. It's very easy to get some easy damage off of that. Then we got forward 2-1, right? It's a nice combo starter, and also is minus 6, so it's safe. So you're going to see a lot of his special, or a lot of his strings are going to be safe. And this is why I consider him a pressure fighter, because he's just going to basically be here in your face, throwing stuff out and hoping that you press a button. He's very good at keeping the range that he wants. And then obviously you can do combos with it. And so pretty good starter, right? Back 3-2 is his bread and butter. Most of his combos are going to start this way, and because it's so far range, I'm basically throwing this out every match, and I'm just following this up to whatever I want. I can do force ball, you know, I can do gator roll, I can do dash. So everything combos off of this string, and it's extremely useful. And because it's safe, I could just throw this out willy-nilly and not really care. Let's talk a little bit about his weaknesses. So he does lack a fast projectile. So what I mean by that, he doesn't have a projectile that moves across the screen like that, right? He's got the force ball, and don't get me wrong, it's a big projectile and it covers a lot of space. And, you know, he could increase the speed, and it's a mid. A lot of these things are good. But the issue with it is that it is a little on the slower side. If you see it coming out, it's a big, giant green ball. If your opponent sees it coming, they could kind of deal with it. You know, it's not impossible to deal with. Whereas something like a Scorpion Spear is a lot faster. So just keep that in mind. He doesn't really have a fast projectile. He can get outranged by some normals. So what I mean by that, he does have this one, right? And it's pretty good. But as far as like other big normals in his kit, he's got this sweep, but this is the second hit in his attack. So just be wary of you getting outranged. So throwing things like this out is fine, but you can get hit by someone with a big normal. So someone like Scorpion, his stand 2 is going to probably hit me on this mid. So just be careful with that. Alright, so now let's take a look at some of the cameos that I recommend with Reptile. The first one's going to be Kung Lao. This is the one that's proved most effective for me out of the ones that I've tested. And there's a couple of reasons why. So first off, when we look at Reptile's weaknesses, we had mentioned that he didn't have a fast projectile, and Kung Lao fixes that by having his low hat. The cool thing about the low hat is that you can actually delay it. So what this means is that I can set up situations where, you know, the low hat is on the floor, and then I hit him with an overhead, you know, and you can kind of do things like this. Or, you know, jump in, and then the low comes out, and then I can do an empty jump. So that's something that's very beneficial to him. And then also he's got his teleport. He's got one hit of armor when he does his teleport. He does have a little bit of recovery that you do have to kind of watch out for. But it helps him get out of situations where he's getting outzoned heavily. Like, let's say I'm out here, and I'm losing a fireball war. Well, then I can kind of just do this and deal with the zoner that way. And then finally, we have this combo extender tool. He basically just does his spin. He spins to win, and then I can kind of get whatever I want off of it. All of these are going to be summon assists, so that's the only weakness, I would say, about Kung Lao. But other than that, it's very, very good, the services that Kung Lao provides. So another one that I would recommend would be Cyrax. So Cyrax, the main reason I picked him is because of both combo extension and also the pressure that he provides. So this Cyrax copter is just very good overall. You know, I could do things like this, and he's pressuring out, and it's an ambush assist, so I can kind of call it whenever I want. It just gives the opponent things to think about. So if I do something like this, well, now he's got to think whether I'm going to do an overhead or a low there. So that's very useful. And in combos, obviously, Cyrax does his job pretty well. He also has this bomb. I haven't mastered exactly how to use it yet. It could be useful for when you knock the opponent down. And just giving them something to think about, especially since you can hold it. You know, they're thinking about that, and then you kind of gator roll them, or you're allowed to move, or through a force ball, things like that. Then there's just another mid projectile that he can throw out. And it's decently fast, but it's got a lot of startup. So you have to be a little bit careful with it. And he's got all the time in the world to do a combo if it actually lands. So that's always beneficial. And finally, the last cameo I would recommend for him would be Sub-Zero. So I had mentioned that he doesn't have a fast projectile, and he can get outzoned if, you know, the opponent's very good at what they do. So, with Sub-Zero, now they can't zone me. I can kind of just walk through their stuff, and I won't really have to worry about it. And with the Gator Roll, like, now I can walk and then attack them whenever I want. Then he's got a shoulder tackle. So this goes more into like the playing into some of Reptile's strengths, where he is going to want to pressure you and keep things safe. So, you know, he's pushing the opponent a little quite at the distance you actually do want to be at, right? Because from here, you know, Gator Roll, he's watching out for a lot of things. I can hit you with the like a charged overhead. So just very good. It does end up being a knockdown. And knocks him back full screen, so you can kind of do whatever you want to do from there. Maybe after you knock him down, you just pop the free stuff, and then now you can kind of work your little game. And then the final one would be the freeze. And who doesn't love a freeze? You know, you can get combos off of it. And, you know, it just works. It's efficient. So, Sub-Zero is one that I would recommend if your opponent is heavily zoning you. You would just put this on and then Reptile and kind of do what he can do. So let's talk a little bit about his ease of use. So as far as his movement goes, his slide and dash let him move across the screen and punish things like projectiles, and he's got a decently fast walk speed. For strings, he's got a decent number of them, but they're not difficult to execute. A lot of them are only 2 hits, and they take up a lot of space, so something like this. The way I like to play Reptile for his game plan is going to be using him as, like I said, a pressure character, and then also hit and run. So I see their opponent doing something, I punish them, I get the hell out of there, you know? And just so that I can kind of like be very fluid with my movement and things like that. And then I could also do things with this low. You know, I see you whiff something, then I'm coming in here for a combo. And that's a lot of fun. He's got easy execution, but some combos require timing after recovery. So, for example, back 2, you can only really hit this, you know, other stuff. Requires some timing. There you saw I pressed a bunch of buttons. So you have to just watch out for that. But other than that, it's not really... His execution is relatively simple. His special moves, I don't use all of them. I use basically the force ball, I use the gator roll, and then I use this. The invisibility I rarely use, and the dash I do use. I plan on using it more because it is a pretty good tool. But they help his movement and his screen presence, and a lot of them are combo enders. As far as ease of use, overall, I'm going to go ahead and give Reptile a 3.5 stars out of 5. So if you guys have found anything new or cool about Reptile or want to teach me a thing or two, go ahead, write it down in the comments, leave a like, and subscribe. This has been Enter Reptile.